Welcome to Mixing Up Midlife, the weekly podcast for women over 50 who want to explore this incredible age by being more adventurous and more curious. I'm Terry.
And I'm Melissa. And on this week's episode, we are not going to be a broken record and fully recap The Golden Bachelor again, although we love it and we are going to do a quick recap on it. But this time, we're going to go off on a little bit of a limb on it and discuss a little bit more about an interview we heard with one of the contestants, Nancy, that left the show. She happens to be in my local area, although I haven't run into her on the street or anything. But she
Bummer.
was, I know, she was interviewed on a local news show, and some of the things she said really jived with me, and it just our whole idea of this podcast, and really answered some of the questions that we wondered about this Golden Bachelor, like how is it affecting the women that go on? What have they learned from it? Have they been revitalized? Is it something that kickstarted them to try new things?
And I love that you go with that kickstart because that's really what Nancy was talking about. So, Melissa, you found that interview. Why don't you give us a recap on what it was, what she was saying? I think you pulled a quote from the interview.
Yeah, well, she was just being interviewed about her experience. And if you don't remember who Nancy was, she's the one that ended up with a stress fracture playing pickleball. It turned out to be something more than that, but she thought she injured herself playing pickleball. And in the next instant, and I think that episode was cut a little bit because it seemed very sudden, she basically excused herself from the show, not because of that, but because she told Garrett, I don't think I'm the one for you, and I don't think you're the one for me. And he agreed, and so she left. So I thought that was really interesting in itself. But when she was interviewed, it was kind of the questions typical. Do you regret going on? Are you excited that you did it? And
what was the experience?
What was the experience like? And I think it's very admirable the way she left. She wasn't excused. She excused herself, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, we did talk about this. Like, she was like, I'm not feeling it, so I'm out. And clearly he's not feeling it. She didn't get a one-on-one with him. And I think without those one-on-ones, you don't have the chance to make any sort of connection.
But
so
she did say, but when she went on, she said it was an incredible experience. She's been revitalized. She is going to be dating more. And as I said, she told this interviewer that it ended up being an experience that really got things going for her again. She's a widow, I believe, and her niece actually signed her up. And she said that she's going to be dating again, that she was happy that she put herself out there, and the show was just the first step to continuing her life.
And so that is really, in essence, what we talk about is that impetus to do bigger things, more things, get out of your comfort zone. Because I think, we do tend to fall into a comfort zone where these are our lives. We're very comfortable doing the same types of things, seeing the same people, even doing the same experiences with our partners if we have them, and if not, with our friends. And what she said was so interesting, that putting herself out there, and to be honest, this is such a vulnerable thing to do, putting yourself on national TV.
Yeah. I mean, that's a drastic putting yourself out there. You and I talked about what ways that we've put ourselves out there, and even things that seem scary to us and that we've done, that's nothing compared to going on national TV.
Melissa, I don't know that I could actually do that. I don't know, even if it weren't a dating show. And we talked about this too, like, oh, maybe we would do like a around the world exploration race thing. And I still don't know, because think about it. You have to leave your husband, you have to leave your partner. But it did get us talking and thinking about, what are the things that you actually are doing to get yourself out of your comfort zone? I have to be honest. I haven't done a lot lately, I don't think, to get myself out of the comfort zone. When I started this podcast with even without you, because
Mhm.
you've been with me since episode 2, but you really have been with me since the beginning. But the whole idea of starting it
Right.
was because I saw my life getting small and I didn't want that. And so I had these big ideas that
Mhm.
weren't big ideas. They were like little small things. What are the things that you could do to sort of shake things up? And one of them was go out to dinner by yourself. I still haven't done that. That is a very little thing to try to do.
It is, but I think what you are also saying is that it was the podcast that kickstarted you to doing new things. Because you starting a podcast about women
Doing new
exploring
things.
new things and being curious, you were forced to be put in that situation. No, you haven't gone to dinner by yourself yet, but that's
I mean, that's not it. It's not that big of a deal. I
right.
go to shows by myself. I'll go to
Mhm.
comedy shows by myself or live podcasts where I literally am the only person I know. And that is it is very uncomfortable, but because it's something I really want to do,
Mhm.
I do it.
Right. So there must be a mixture of it's something you really want to do. Maybe you don't need to go out to dinner by yourself that badly. Maybe that's why it hasn't happened yet.
Maybe.
But if you really wanted to go to a show and no one was going to do it,
No, I would totally.
you'd totally do it.
Yes. So, but it makes me think like, what are those things to kickstart you? What is going to be your impetus? And you, our listeners, what is the thing that you're thinking about? Like, oh, I wish I could. Is there
Right.
that thing? And
I
life
mean,
is too
something
short.
with it's always been easy for me to jump on something that's already been established. Like when I started running, would I start running by myself? No. I was
Right.
invited to start running with some women, and then those women entered a 10K, and then I started with that. Then I was with some other women who wanted to run a marathon. It's easy. You get forced into doing it by taking that first step and signing up. And then you're in
Right.
it, and then you kind of have no turning back. So I think things like if you are thinking of running, signing up for that race will kickstart you to doing it. It's committing yourself, I
I
think.
think it is. And I think a lot of this also, you were talking about you had friends who were pulling you in to do things. A lot of it is accountability. You have friends that you show up for. So I used to row and I used to race with rowing.
Mhm.
And I had a group of people that if I did not show up, the boat would not do as well. You know,
Right.
we relied on each other. So I think there's something in team activities. But what about those singular things that, like, all of these women on The Bachelor seem to be doing? They all did this big, scary thing on their own. Now, yes, it was surrounding dating, and I will scream it till the end of time. I want to see an adventure show or a more fun show with these women going and doing and experiencing. And
Mhm.
I make comments on the Golden Bachelor. So maybe the producers will actually get the idea that this is really something that women want to see is friends. I don't know.
Interesting thought. Yes, we have to think about being more specific about what we would suggest they are doing. I guess
What
they
would you
also have to think about, do people want to watch that too?
I think women would watch it. I do. Would the younger crowd watch it? And I think that's where a lot of their popularity has come from as well, is younger women, couples are watching The Golden Bachelor. And I
Mhm.
honestly think, wouldn't that be an amazing thing to see these really wild, fun women who can still comport themselves with some semblance of humanity and reasonable decorum? And I think that sounds really old fashioned, but it's not the
It's
old,
not cutthroat. And
right.
oh, the other
Or
thing that
women
Nancy,
getting wasted and rolling around on the ground, which is
yeah,
Bravo, used to be
this is
Bravo.
very, I mean, do they ever show them drinking on this show?
Just the toast. That's it.
Okay, yeah. It's interesting. I didn't even think about that. But in the
I,
other ones, they just encouraged them to sit around and get sloshed so they would make
and
some controversy.
And there's nothing wrong with either drinking, not drinking, but I think a lot of, at least on Bravo and with New York housewives and even some of the older Beverly Hills housewives, it was all about them getting smashed and being really outrageous. And honestly, I feel like they were being mocked for it
Mhm.
and but also being rewarded for it.
Oh, yeah. They
And
were being rewarded by the producers for doing it.
right. And
Hmm.
that's not what I want to see
Hmm.
in anyone. I don't want to see it in younger people. I don't want to see it in older people. Anyway, all right. Sorry. We totally off topic here.
Well, no, but I also wanted to say there two more things. What Nancy got out of being on this show were some things other than kickstarting dating. So
Right.
there's always peripheral benefits to joining something or putting yourself out of your comfort zone. And for her, it was, well, even though she got injured in pickleball, she says she's going to keep playing. So she's introduced to a new sport. The other thing was that she said she didn't just meet Gary, she met 21 women that have lived lives kind of similar to hers, have real experiences. She talked about how they just clicked and that they could understand each other. Some of them, they're either, unfortunately, I believe they're all either widowed or divorced. I don't think anyone was single all the way through.
I don't think so. Again, I don't know about Kathy at all.
Hmm.
She's the only one I have a real question mark around. But yeah, single, divorced, suicide. There was,
Hmm.
and I feel like that might have been April, but I don't know for a
Yeah,
fact.
I don't know. She did say there was some to suicide, but
Yeah, which is terrible.
it's terrible. But
But they've
they
lived life.
they have had lived life. They could come together. She said they didn't even really have to speak about certain things because they could just feel it through each other. And so that's really amazing. She made some good friends. And the other thing that I wanted to point out that again, I've already said it, but I just thought we are at an age where we don't put up with bullshit either. We are ready and willing to walk away from something if it doesn't work, which she did with Gary. Not that there was any problem with it. She wasn't bad-mouthing him, unlike April has been, but she just knew it wasn't working. And we don't have enough time to keep hanging in there and
That's it.
not
That's
be
it.
true to yourself.
And that's because of experience
Hmm.
and living life.
I
Like
think that would
where
only be women of our age who would be able to be strong
yeah.
enough to do that. Though I do want to point out, and I don't know anything more about this except the article cover that I sent to you this morning, Terry, about Barbara Streisand. She's
Oh
coming out
yeah.
with a memoir, but the clip that I saw or the headline that I saw on it is that Barbara Streisand is ready to start having fun
At age 81.
at age 81
Yeah, and
that she
well,
never has.
but
And
think about it. So she has had a huge career since the age of what, 19?
she was young.
She
She's
was
definitely a
young.
teenager.
Yeah, really young. And so she's worked. And she probably felt like she had to fit in to some sort of mold.
Had to keep
Again,
going.
had to keep going to stay relevant. But now she's feeling more her own, maybe. And she has money to take care of the things that maybe other people would need to worry about at the age of 81. And she can go and have fun. But if you can't start learning to have fun, I think that's
Yeah.
also something you have to learn
Right.
sometimes.
I just love the idea that she said, I'm ready to start. Instead of saying, I'm 81, my days are numbered. It's no, I'm
Oh,
going to
no.
do something with this time. So
No, I love
it's
that.
never too late. It's never too late to learn a little bit more about yourself. It's never too late to put yourself out there, and it's never too late to have fun.
Yay!
All
I
right,
like
all
that.
right. So speaking of fun,
let's talk about it.
so you and I,
Quick
Terry,
recap.
started
Oh my God.
recapping. We
It was
tried an
it was a
experiment that did not
recrap.
work. Yes, we tried to, I wouldn't say
Live
stream because
watch.
it wouldn't live watch the show
Yeah.
together. and comment.
recorded at the same time. Yeah,
And that turned out to be a bit of a disaster. So we are scrapping all that, starting
we
from the
are.
beginning. And I have to note that the beginning is a little blurry to me now because I didn't take any notes on
No,
it.
neither did I. But I don't think that's the important part. If we're
Mhm.
doing a recap, here's what you need to know. 3 contestants had hometowns. It was Teresa, it was Leslie, and it was Faith. Gary is going to their homes to meet their families, and we start out with Teresa.
Yes, they all have children. They all have grandchildren,
They
right?
do,
They do.
yes.
Even though none of them look old enough to, but that's another thing. Um, so yeah, with Teresa, we met the grandchildren, and they all have grandchildren who are adorable and spend some quality time with Gary, quizzing him, which I'm sure was heavily coached, but it's their kids that really resonated with me. Teresa has a daughter. She was talking to the camera a bunch,
Yeah.
and I think you and I started
We
crying when
both
we
started
watched it,
crying.
the way she talked about
Her
how
dad.
it was great that her mom has such a good relationship with Gary, but of course no one can replace her father, and it's so the truth. I mean, it's a situation that you have at dating at this age. We all,
Yeah.
those other relationships are not to be forgotten by any means, just because you're putting yourself out there again.
Yeah, I really appreciated Teresa's daughter more than I actually appreciate Teresa. So I'll be, honest. It's not like I have a thing against her, but it's just, I don't know. I don't know if
It
we would
makes
be
me like
friends.
Teresa more that I liked her daughter so much.
I loved how mature her daughter was, how protective of her mother she was, how they were such a tight knit family. I really did think that was great.
And so I think, did we not hear an I love you from Gary to Teresa in that hometown visit?
We did not. So Teresa full out said to Gary, I love you. And he was like, "Oh, Teresa,
Let me
that
kiss you.
is yeah, let
That's
me
his
shut you
fallback.
up now." Gary shut up with a kiss. He didn't say it back, but he was like, "Oh, it does my heart so good to hear this." But he didn't say it back. And the reason I know he didn't say it back because I actually wrote a note at the end when she said during the rose ceremony, "I haven't heard an I love you, but I want to hear it."
Then he goes to Benton City,
Washington.
Washington,
Mhm.
and visits Faith's family. And Faith is a true country girl.
She is.
She
She
looks natural up on that horse.
Yeah.
Gary's a little more nervous about it. They even do some type of awkward kiss on each of their own horses, which I was a little nervous for them about. And they did the obligatory running into each other's arms. So,
They really seemed to have a huge connection here in this one. And I was like, firmly, Faith, 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 except,
yes. But where
okay,
would they live?
that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So they started talking about how each of them is pretty firmly planted where they are. She's very close to her boys, I think, her sons
Mm-hmm.
and her grandchildren. And I know Teresa is very close to her daughter and her grandchildren. She lives like nearby. So, but for
And
Faith, it came up. Yeah.
her horses are buried there.
Her horse is buried
She
there.
will not leave where her
She not,
horses are buried, apparently.
listen, would you? I mean, legally, can you even bury a horse in your yard? Which is why my dogs are cremated in little tins still, so I can carry them with me. I just have to
Yes,
be able to carry them with me,
true.
which is really weird. I know that,
We
but
still have
whatever.
ours, too.
But they showed us this scene for a reason, and it put a question in the air.
Right.
So, will
And
Faith
I have to
continue or
say
not?
again with, her telling her he loves him, Gary saying, "You make me feel so special." Now, Gary says that a lot. It's all a
Mm.
lot about how special they make me feel. Is that something you would say that would be showing that you're falling in love?
I know. I don't
I don't
think
know if that's a
so.
male thing or that's a
Like, you
Gary
make
thing.
me
He
feel
seems
so
to really
special.
warm up when someone points out how special he is. It's
Love
just
him.
something
I
that
don't know.
grated with me a little bit. I feel like love should be more, we're in this together, not you just make
Well,
me feel special.
right. And then, Melissa,
Does that make any sense?
it does, but you said earlier, like, what is love?
Yeah,
Right?
true.
What is love? And new love is very different than love over the course of 30 some odd years.
Right. I
So
think
I
there's
don't know.
numerous definitions and numerous feelings
Yeah.
that you can have that can be called love. So we'll see, Gary. He may be in love with multiple people, but that love may not be the same as that original love he had for his first wife.
Right. So one of the things that Faith's son, or one of her sons, I think she's got two, said, "Are you in love with her?" And he said, "I kind of think I am." Okay. That does not give me a ton of confidence. I
No.
kind of think I am. You may be feeling all the feelings. And this also made me think, at what point in his life, our lives, in this mature stage of our lives, do we actually say, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know? Like, where it's okay to say, I don't know. I'm feeling things, but I don't know. I
I
kind
think
of
if
think I
Gary didn't
am.
have the show behind him saying, this is The Bachelor, you better damn well say you love these women.
Mm,
He might be a little more natural in saying, I have these strong feelings. I'm not really sure
but I don't know.
what
Yeah,
love is at this point.
I'll give him that. Okay. And then he was whispering, "I love you" to Faith. They were sitting in a chair, they were locking eyes. I mean, it
Oh
really,
gosh, they were.
right?
Was it them that did it in front of everybody? He said that when he was like in
Oh
the
my God.
middle of.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
He whispered, "I love you." I mean, holy God. So
Yeah.
he goes from kind of
Mm-hmm.
to "I love you."
I
I
don't know.
don't
Maybe the
know
emotions
about
did
this.
carry him away a
It's
little bit
possible.
there.
I mean, I guess that is definitely
It's hard,
possible.
but can I tell you? So when he next goes to Minneapolis to meet with Leslie, that leap that she did into his arms and spin, that was like pretty
A
much.
backbreaker.
Yeah. There looked like there was a connection there.
They definitely have had a connection the entire time, and we've said that the entire time.
So we saw Leslie explain who he was going to meet, and she informs him that one of her brothers is actually kind of her de facto father because of something that happened when she didn't say specifically what happened, but he died suddenly. Her brother came to pick her up at school instead of her father and said, I'm your father now. So he's a very important person for Gary to meet and put a good impression on. I think he does, although the brother does voice the same feelings we all have, how odd it is that he can be in front of them all saying he loves his sister and at the same time dating two other people. But that's
Right,
the messed up nature of this show, and that's why everybody loves to watch it. So we can't go
right.
too far in that direction.
No, the chemistry with Leslie and Gary is fully there. And I feel that Leslie would have the hardest time. She seems to be the most vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
and they keep bringing up how she's always been in bad relationships and
Yes.
that she's never picked a guy like Gary. So I think that's interesting. I wrote this down just because I think it was funny. So at one point, Gary said, "I have faith in the faith box,"
Oh,
and I have,
yeah. Putting
and
them
I
all
was
in
like,
boxes.
boxes. And I was like, "Oh, great. Gary's got boxes."
Yeah, that was a
It was
bit odd. I
odd,
mean, I
right?
think just the terms he used were odd, but I think compartmentalizing the three
Sure.
different relationships is the only way he can get through it.
And I understand that. I just thought it
But
was funny.
again, another cool as hell daughter who is basically the mom's best friend and says she can tell how she feels. I mean, I think these women's emotions, while we might feel like they're kind of being forced to be into a competition saying, I love you. They're being validated by their kids. And I
Yeah.
think they're pretty sincere.
So the thing that struck me as odd, Melissa, throughout this whole thing is I think they said they've been in it for 2 or 3 weeks, the
Yeah,
entire experience.
it's very short.
And I did read that this is sped up hugely. This particular season
Hmm.
has been sped up versus
Well,
like a
usually
regular bachelorette.
what I
It's
heard
five
was
or
they usually
six
go on a
weeks.
trip. They leave the original place and they go somewhere else. And they didn't
Right.
do that in this show,
Right.
unless it's going to still happen.
I think the next episode is the Women Tell All, which I'm looking forward
Oh, yeah.
to.
So we have a bit of a, did you know this was going to happen? I asked my daughter afterwards, is this common? Because it was the ring ceremony.
Oh,
He
yeah.
gives the first rose to Leslie.
I kind of thought so.
You thought it would be a
Yeah. A cliffhanger.
cliffhanger? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he just gets up and walks away and says he can't
Yep.
give the other one away. So we don't know whether Faith or Teresa gets the rose.
Right. What's your feeling?
I was thinking it was going to be Faith.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I still feel like he has stronger feelings for Faith versus Teresa, but it would be nice if Faith does disqualify herself. That would make people a little less heartbroken. I don't know.
Right. I don't know that Faith is gonna leave her place,
Mm-hmm.
Benton City. She seems very attached.
Mm-hmm.
I think that probably is the priority, and we'll see how it goes. We'll work it out. I don't think that's enough for her, maybe. So where I did think Faith was going to take it all, I'm changing that. I'm saying Leslie.
I think I'm changing that too.
Even I see Leslie. First of all, Leslie is Minneapolis. He's what, Indiana? Not terribly far away.
Right.
I know the location, right? But New Jersey, which is where Teresa is, to
Mhm.
Indiana, that's a big difference.
It's more of a difference, yes.
And Washington to Indiana, huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how you discount the location at this age.
Right. No, I totally agree. I think this is very different than a regular bachelor where they're just starting out on life. They've got real ties to their areas. And
Yeah.
that's something I don't think we really, you and I don't think discussed that before this episode. Or maybe we did
We did a little
a
bit,
little
but
bit,
not a
but it
lot.
really kind of gels here.
It really does, because you have your roots,
Mm-hmm.
your family. I mean, if your family is spread out throughout the country and in different places, maybe not such a big deal, and you're
Mhm.
willing to go and travel. But it seems that all three of these, and probably the reason he picked them and they really vibed with him, is because they all have very similar family values. They're
Mhm.
very close to their families, physically and emotionally.
Right.
So,
And Gary
know-
just built his dream retirement house too, right?
did he? I have no
That was
idea.
how the whole episode began. His wife died shortly after they moved into
Oh,
their
that's
dream home
right.
they had built.
That's right.
And I'm not even sure where that was, but
I think isn't it in Indiana, and
It
isn't
must
that
have
where his
been.
daughters live as well, and his grandchildren? And so, how do you make that decision? Personally, I don't know that if I had my grandchildren in the same area as me, I'd be able to leave. I don't know.
I
really
agree.
don't
I don't
know.
know. We'll just have to wait until the next episode to find out who the last two remaining will be. But you said the next episode is also a tell all of the women.
It's the Women
So
Tell
that's
All,
good. That's
and
our type of show.
I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see the ladies back together.
Yeah.
I want to hear a little bit about the whole Zip It, because Kathy is getting a lot of, I would say, negative sort of comments versus, and I want to hear what she has to say about that, if anything.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting. All right, Melissa. So here's the question.
Yes.
I want to leave you, our listeners, I want to leave it with this question.
Okay.
If you're feeling like you're stuck or that you're complacent in your own life, what is the thing for you that's going to kickstart it? Do you have something like that in your mind?
Are you asking me personally or our listeners?
Sure. Yes. Because I
Uh,
feel like I'm being complacent.
I feel like I'm continually putting myself in some uncomfortable positions when it comes to, I hate to say bring work into
Work?
this, but
Yeah.
I am.
Same.
And I think when you do that, you get other benefits as well. You possibly meet people you wouldn't have before.
Yeah.
You have the confidence to control certain situations. You know how people say the year of saying yes or something
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
Try something like that. If someone asks you to do something and your knee-jerk reaction is like, "No, I wouldn't do that," or just think twice
Say
and
yes.
say, "Yeah, I'll try it."
Oh, that's good. I like that. Okay.
Okay. Or sign up
So,
for a class of some type.
mm,
Make yourself accountable somehow.
I like that as well. Good advice, Melissa.
Gosh, I am just full of good advice today, aren't
You
I?
really are. You're the wise, wise woman. All right. So I think that is it for us. We're not going to get into a weekend watch. Next week, I think we're going to start making the recaps a little bit shorter and
Add
really
on.
bringing in our regular routine, getting us back to our regularly scheduled programming.
I agree.
That makes
I'm
sense?
ready to move on to other topics, but
Same.
I can't stop talking about it with you anyway, because that's the type of show it is. So we
I
only
think
have a
it's
few more episodes. So
no, and I
those
think
of
it's
you who aren't
culturally
watching,
significant.
yes, those of you who aren't watching and don't have any intention of, don't cut us off yet. Don't unsubscribe
No,
to our podcast because we
no,
will be
no.
going back to doing things.
Speaking of subscribing, it would really help us out if you rated, reviewed, and subscribed to our podcast. Just leave us a quick little note when you're doing a review. Hey, love the episode, or enough of the Golden Bachelor already. It would be super, super helpful. If you've done it before, I think you can do it again if it's been a little bit of a time. We would love that. It helps us get seen.
We aren't doing this for monetary gain. We aren't doing this for notoriety. I think our actual goal is to reach out to those women out
Community.
there who are like us and maybe need to hear these type of discussions. So,
Absolutely. And share it with a friend.
exactly.
We would love that. All right. You could always share our Facebook group with your friends too. That's Mixing Up Midlife. You can find us on Instagram, again, Mixing Up Midlife. Leave us a voicemail on our website, mixingupmidlife.com. 30 seconds or less. I think it cuts you off, but you can always leave us another one. Anything else, Melissa?
I would say also tell us if you have recently kickstarted your adventures or there's something that you really want to do and you don't know what would kickstart it, because we're all here for each other. We can talk. Let's talk.
Actually, I think that would be really interesting. Do you feel stuck? Maybe send us an email, mixingupmidlife@gmail, saying, I'm having trouble figuring something out. Maybe the group of us can actually help you figure it out. That would be fun.
Great. Have a great week, Terry.
Thank you, Melissa.
And to
You
everybody
have a great
else.
week too. I see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I don't have to do anything.
You don't. Hang on. Oh, I just had to burp. Ugh. Sorry. Oh my
What
God.
episode is this?
Episode 6 of the Golden Bachelor.
Yes.
Yes, episode 6 of us. I don't know, 183.
Oh, no. Well, I'm
Who
not going to
knows?
say what episode we're on.